Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent stamp demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm sharing with you a project for the Crafty Collaborations mini catalogue launch, and I have chosen the beautiful two-tone flora bundle and the accompanying DSP, and we're making this fun version of a block easel card. And as you can see, I have, if I move that, you can see I've used a beautiful die to create a see-through lace effect background. And that's because in this two-tone flora bundle, you have got dies that cut out the flowers and foliage and this lovely all-over lace effect die too, as you can see here. So let's get started. First of all, let's show you the paper that comes in this bundle, and very quickly, it's 6x6 paper. You get 4 sheets each of 12 designs, and it's lovely acrylic style painting. So again, double-sided, and you've got a range of sort of rough floral images and then just more generic backgrounds. So you can see here, lots of lovely soft pastel colours and some brighter ones too. Everything from kind of Calypso Coral and Blushing Bride through to sort of Starry Sky. It might be Orchid Oasis actually, that one. But as you can see, lots of opportunities for some great colour combinations in there. Okay, so this is a photopolymer stamp set, and it's 2-step stamping, as you can see here. So you have one solid image to create the background, another one to add the detail. And my top tip for you is to create yourself a little bit of a cheat card. So I've numbered my dies for the flowers 1 to 6, and you can see here I've put them, and I've just written on the acetate sheet which one each one is, and that just helps me work out which die I need quickly and easily. So the first step in this is going to be doing some stamping and some die cutting. So to start off with, I'm going to take a piece for my main panel, and this is 14.5 by 10.5 centimetres, and you're going to take you need your large die, and you also need a piece of double-sided adhesive sheet, and I've actually cut this just a millimetre sort of smaller on each side, just to make it easier to line up. So take your first piece of double-sided sheet, line that up as close as you can to the top and the sides, keeping it square, and then you can remove each of the sections as you go down, like so. Once that's adhered, pop your die onto the front, and you're going to pop it just towards the top of this. If you're working in inches, and I will put the dimensions in inches in the description box below the video, then for the US cardstock it will be pretty much the whole of your sheet, but for international cardstock, just put it slightly to the top, leaving a slightly bigger gap at the bottom, and run that through your die cutting machine. So when it comes out of your die cutting machine, you're left with this piece here, and as you can see, as you lift it up, some piece will drop out. I like to give it a quick flick to get any loose pieces out of the way, and that just helps release it a bit. And then you peel that back, and as you peel it, you'll see those die cut pieces should just pop through. You might find you need to encourage some of them with a little bit of a pokey tool. As you see, it peels back, and you end up with this beautiful lacy panel. And all you're going to do now is take a piece of acetate window sheet that is exactly the same, so 14.5 by 10, and you're going to lay that on the top of your window sheet, just lining that up with the outer edge. And then before you press it down, just lift out any pieces that you don't want to stay in there. As I say, I'm just using a pokey tool here. Press that down really well, and that is your front panel ready to go. So the next thing we want to do is stamp our flowers, and I'm using what I call my number 1 flower, which is the largest flower. So I've got my large one and I've got my detailed sheet. Now, because these are photopolymer, I would recommend that you use a stamping pierce mat, because that will just help you get a really good image. Next we're going to stamp our number 1 flower, and for this I'm using some Highland Heather. And what you're going to do is take a scrap of card, take your large image, stamp off once and then stamp down, and then I'm going to line up my detailed image, just hovering over the top there and using the stamens and the out of the flower edge to line that up. Like so. Then you can take your coordinating die and pop that over the top, and then die cut that out. I also want to stamp some leaves, so I've got my leaf stamps here, and I'm just going to use some Pool Party, which is the same as the cardstock I'm using, and I'm just going to come in and stamp one of my sprays and one of my leaf duos in the corner there. Just make sure you leave enough space to pop your die around as well. And then when I add my dies, my detail ones, even if I'm using magnetic plate, I just like to use a little bit of post-it note for extra security, just to hold that in place. As I say, just make sure that you leave enough space that your dies aren't going to overlap with each other. And with leaves, I usually make sure I line up, say, a top leaf and the bottom of the stem. The rest of it should go through perfectly. So now all that remains is for us to die cut those out. So here we have our die cut pieces. And actually want that, I picked up the wrong one because that one's soft succulent. There we go. For the outside, I'm just going to do the panel for the inside as well. And for this, I've just taken a piece of basic white, which is 9.5 by 10.5 centimetres wide, and I'm just going to stamp on that bottom corner with this the second floral image, just to tie that in as well. And again, just going to use our Highland Heather. And on this one, I've got a little sort of swirl shape, which I'll show you. So in here, there's this little swirl. So when you take the second one, you'll see there's a corresponding one as well. So that just helps you line up and get that beautiful detail in place. So that's going to go to one side. Clear the deck slightly, and now we can get on with our actual card base. The other thing I've done already is I have stamped and die cut a sentiment from the Charming Sentiments, and I've cut one in the same colour as the layer to go behind it as well. And then to create the card base itself, you want half a sheet of A4 cardstock. You're going to want your extender arm because it's got some longer measurements. And we are going to score at this edge. First one is at 3.5 centimetres. Turn it round, and then we're going to score at 12.5. At 24, at 25.5, at 27 centimetres, and 28.5 centimetres. Then grab your bone folder and just reinforce those score lines. As you go along, just line up your edges to make sure they're parallel as well. You can always at this stage slightly correct them if they're slightly out, if you've moved your card at all. And then this is our box section for the easel, like Now while it's flat, it's perfect time to add our DSP. So I'm going to fold down this section and I'm adding. So next I'm going to add some DSP to the top here, and this needs to be 8.5 by 10.5 centimetres hard, but it just adds a little border top and bottom. I'm going to add this while the card is flat. You can see here just adding a little border. And what I'm also going to do now is add my DSP for the bottom, and these are 10.5 by 1.2 centimetres, and I've cut them from the same piece off the bottom there so the pattern kind of follows on rather. So you're going to add them, my top piece, like so. And my second piece. And then the last one on the bottom there. It doesn't matter if the pattern doesn't follow, but I just think it's nice if it does follow on, particularly if it's a floral pattern where you've actually got some continuity. This one's slightly more abstract. So once that's done, you're going to fold over just those first two sections, and on the very end there add your adhesive and fold it up and hold that in place until it grabs. And that's going to form our box segment. So all we need to do is add our basic white panel the inside. So that's where you can add your message or sentiment, and the nice thing with this is because it's behind the easel, it's not visible. So that's going to fold in like so. So now we're going to add our panel to the front here, and you just want to add glue to the edge here. So what I would suggest you do is just line it up at the same time, as you can see here, and I'm going to grab my glue dots and add my adhesive. Glue dots, so all I'm going to do is pop some glue dots on the large panels. So you'll see here. So these are, I'm going to add it all along that bottom section where we've got more space. And again, lining up here, I'm just going to make sure that my glue dots don't go over that top section. So add as many as you think, just to keep it in place. Just make sure you come to the edges as well. So where you've got space to add an extra one into the edge, you can do that as well. So now we've added our glue dots, just line that up with the bottom and side edge, because you want to make sure it's parallel, and press that in place like so. So you can see here we've now got our easel. So all that remains is to add our flowers and our sentiment. So with the sentiment, I've just added a couple of dimensionals to the back there to keep that in place. I'm using mini dimensionals because those end pieces are just quite small. And on the back of this here, I'm just going to shape my flower slightly. And then, because I've got my mini glue dot, my mini dimensionals, I'm just going to pop a couple there as well. So this flower is then going to layer over the top here. And then I'm going to add that to the top of my panel. So line that up like so. Then if you open that up, you can then just pop that on the reverse if you want to, just to cover up where those dimensionals are. like so. So you can just add some adhesive or glue dots to hold that in place on there. I'm just going to grab a couple of glue dots. Like so. Again, for the flowers, leaves even, these are my soft succulent. For speed, I'm just going to grab a glue dot and pop that and squeeze, and do the same with my smaller leaf as well. So again, just grab a glue dot and pop that under the corner there. And there we have my version of a block easel card. Obviously the block folds down flat, that'll fit in a standard envelope, and hopefully it's obvious when it arrives with the recipients, they can just pop that up to create their pretty card. So there we go. So, fresh freesia, pool party and Highland heather. Which do you prefer? Do pop along to see all the other lovely projects that have been created for the Crafty Creations catalogue launch, and do pop back and see me again soon. Bye now.